Hello, this is Everett Pierce, and it is November the 26th, 2016. It is Saturday, the day after Black Friday. Okay, this is part 3, and we're talking about the topics of duly noted, D-U-L-L-Y. You can say, wait a minute. No, it's D-U-L-Y, noted. Now, because we have to be careful in terms of communications. If we was to spell it D-U-L-L-Y, then it changes the demeanor of it. Okay, so it doesn't mean properly noted. It means it was improperly noted. Okay, so that's what this part 3 is going to be about. We're going to hit it in some depth into here. And we're also going to take it back in time. So, because that's a good tool in terms of a problem solver, is you have to place it from different angles, from a future perspective to the present perspective to the past perspective. Now, duly noted was a term well spoken back in that time. Okay, at least by me anyways. And now, duly noted goes hand in hand with collective knowledge. Okay. And with collective knowledge, also, the first cousin is monogamy. Monogamy means we're evolution. We are evolving. We don't want things that happened in our past to come into the present as if it's actually happening now. Like, for example, we had slavery in the past. That's the type of monogamy we want to make sure it stays in the past. It stays in the history books. It just as a reminder, that's not the direction we need to go into. Okay. So that's what I mean by monogamy. It stays there, and I'll take it one step further. I've observed people. I understand human behavior quite well. Advanced level 3. So, is no one here is on that level, but I am, okay? And that's one of the reasons why I'm here making videos, is to help you understand the different processes. So if I'm on level, say 9, and it goes 98765432210, okay, is I have to understand all levels going down and all levels going up. So it's like a singer who can sing real low and then sing real high. I don't have that kind of voice, obviously. But they have a full range, like Josh Groban, when you hear him sing. And there's many singers out there that just have a wide range. Well, that is, to give you an understanding, my understanding in terms of energy, numbers, and human behavior. And energy in itself. So if I'm energy, you're energy, and your 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 energy. And we know that we've seen lower forms of energy, say like a single cell organism or a snail. We know there's also a highest level of evolution. Okay, highest level of evolution is reserved for God. Okay, I call energy. So, we know that exists. So we know if there's a left, then somewhere here, there's got to be a right. And then once you establish the two, then you have an automatic middle. Okay. So, duly noted. Okay, now, can people be offended by saying, well, that was duly noted? Okay, people get offended. It's not for the fact of, I'm taking the effort to hear what you have to say. People get offended is they figure, okay, because I feel I have the right to stick firecrackers up a cat's ass. And if I don't acknowledge it, yeah, you're right. You should have the right. Okay. If I don't provide that, then they get offended. Meaning because they stated their opinion or their viewpoint, and because I did not side with their logic, they are offended. Okay. So the being offended is not from the act of duly noted, because that's the exercise of that reciprocates to the First Amendment. Means you want to be heard, you want to protest. There's a difference between protesting and rioting. Protest means I have a say to this. I think what I believe in is more solid in its footing than what is happening. Okay, and once that's duly noted, people that's deciding things for the betterment of all people is going to note that. It doesn't mean you go down the street and block off the street so Marianne, who's having a heart attack, can't get an ambulance now because you're rioting and keeping her from her safeties and services. Okay. So duly noted in collective knowledge. Okay. And that's why we have to have multiple tools. We have to have because you have to have an understanding of cause and effect. Because I know if I do this to you, then you're going to do this, like I explained earlier about, two of the members that were in there were ignoring him. And essentially they were trying to punish him because he likes putting firecrackers up a cat's ass. And they still did the same thing even when the cat was dead. Okay, and then it turns out, and the truth of it is, there was 2 incidents that the cat was technically dead because it was witnessed and he'd done it, and then there was other 2 incidents where the cat wasn't dead and he lied about it. Okay, so we have to not focus on the cats that were dead because that wasn't cruel and unusual punishment. That wasn't cruelty. What is that he lied essentially to circumvent the law. Okay, so that's why when it comes to man and human behavior and self-will of man, you have to understand these factors. Because if you don't, like pro-life, if you just sent pro-life, 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 and we're at 7 billion, and next time we become 7 trillion. As we have learned, that's why we have deer season. We have certain seasons for certain animals because if they overpopulate, they don't have enough food and they're going to die anyways. Okay, so that brings in the element of control. Okay, the element of control, meaning that something that's considered positive, pro-life is something positive. But if, like the sword, the symbolism behind the sword, what can be your salvation can also be the thing that cuts your head off. Okay, so that's why, and you cannot be rigid. You have to think in terms of evolution. And that's why with some religions out there, they sit kind of rigid in many ways for many decades and many centuries. And say, well, this book, say something was written 5,000 years ago. Okay, the only problem to that of 5,000 years ago, it's essentially a history book. It's so you can learn from these principles, and as you evolve as people, then you can put a newer concept to that. It's not that you're changing it. And you say, well, this is the word of God. It goes unchanged. It's like, put me in a straitjacket now, please. I'd feel comfortable. So, yeah, I try with a sense of humor. But if I am funny, it's just mere coincidental. So, but I have to practice. So that's why, okay, now when we go back into the past, and we'll say back in 1865, because my previous life was Abraham Lincoln, okay? And also Einstein, Albert Einstein, died in 1955, okay? I'm able to tune up and tune down my intelligence. And it's for the purpose of understanding multiple levels of evolution. So, if you're going to say, oh, I want to put firecrackers up his butt, I'm going to tune down my intelligence and say, okay, why would he be doing this? Okay, but I'm still have my intelligence working here as a problem solver, and I say, okay, well, my dad wasn't there, my mom was working, so essentially I didn't have any disciplinary. No one told me that was wrong. Okay, so it goes into me understanding, instead of being, he's possessed by the demon and devil, is to find out why he's there, cause and effect. Okay, and we go back 1865, why, duly noted, I had Democrats coming to me and say, look, here's the plantation, here's the slave owner, here's the slaves, And it was like a day spa. Okay. And I said, duly noted. Okay. Because it looked like an awesome system. Okay. But I can't base my collective knowledge. I had 10 fingers. So if I was going to base it on there and say, okay, we're not going to vote in 13th Amendment, because look at that plantation. It's good for the people. It's good for the slave owner and it's good for the slaves. And I said, okay, duly noted. Okay, now we still need 9 confirmations. I said, let's look in other areas. Let's look in different counties. And then when I inspected and I see the slaves didn't have to say or do anything. Because in fact, some of them were being punished if they were to say something. You look on their back and you see the whip marks and the scarring. And I say, duly noted. Okay, well, common sense would say, it's not a perfect system when you're torturing people. Just like we was talking about putting a firecracker up a cat's ass. That's torture. That's like kidnapping, in a sense. In fact, they've also done that too. So when I saw how people was utilizing the element of slavery, they had the wrong form of slavery, let me tell you. I mean, in a sense, today, in 2016, we are in a form of slavery. Okay, we're enslaved to money because we have basically, essentially, and the slavery in the good sense is we have to do our fair share in our nation as Americans. Okay, and then we take this money, we put a roof over our head, we put food in our belly, but no one's at our door because we want to call in sick today, and they're going to give us 50 lashings. Okay, so there's the right side of that coin and the wrong side of that coin. And of course, what the Democrats were trying to show me is this is the way it is. And they were correct. If that plantation, if that form of slavery was conducted exactly like that, 90% or higher, that would have been awesome. Because he has the resources, means food, shelter. They don't. And so they work into a system, just like we see in society. We got doctors, we got lawyers, we got politicians, we got the president, vice president. Everyone has a function and purpose in utilizing their skill sets. Okay. But what was incorrect, it wasn't slavery itself that was bad. Okay, let's clarify that. It was how man was treating another person. It was the element, that's why 13th Amendment was essentially, it is against the law for not animal cruelty, but human cruelty. Human cruelty. So we see this with animals, and unfortunately it's the ugly, the good, bad, and ugly of human behavior. And also people's interpretation of what they see of life. There are also interpretation of what they've been taught in terms of religion. And that's why we're going through a lot of things. We're trying to clean up a mess of things. And we're also trying to move forward in evolution. So that's why we have certain terrorist groups out there that we have to deal with, or they're going to bring it to our front door. Okay. And any president, if I was a president, I would be horrified. If I'm in a position now that I must have to eliminate you, that would horrify me. It doesn't say I don't have the ability, because I am very versed in the field of warfare. It means I'd be your worst nightmare. You will wish you had a day in hell versus having a day with me, because I know warfare quite well. Meaning, in the event that I have to utilize these skill sets for the self-preservation of man, not just the United States, but man itself, of all nations. Oh, I'm coming at you. I'm coming at you with so many directions you won't even know. I like the term thief in the night, per se. You wouldn't want one day with me. You just wouldn't. I mean, I've had people who tried, and they left a bad taste in their mouth, like putting cat shit in your mouth. You're like... So, well, that's me trying to be humorous, but there's truth to it. I know warfare like our government or other governments have even thought of it. Okay. And it's for obvious reasons. It's just some things are meant knowledge out of the hands of the public as they're developing and evolving their evolution. But I can tell you, if I'm coming out at ISIS, who are preying on women and killing children and standing behind them in a wall, like using women and children as their own bulletproof vest, I feel sorry for you. Because it's like you've chosen the side of extinction. And your logic and reasoning is so far off. It's even worse than some guy wanting to put a firecracker up a cat's ass, believe it or not. And I would do it, I would be horrified. I would still show you love and respect. Because for starters, I wouldn't want 20 years down the road, your son who observed me and said, "You killed my dad." No, I want that son come to me 20 years later and say, I can understand why you killed my dad. But I also saw that you wrapped him up the way we believed in. And you made sure he was brought back to the village. I want to thank you. And I can understand why you did that. Okay. And that's why we have to be, when we get into warfare, duly noted, collective knowledge. I mean, these are our tools that we have to use, especially in warfare. You cannot make it personal. You cannot make it personal. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to protect women and children and all people, so we can have a future path of our evolution, so we can see and experience what 4 billion years is into the future, and not having to redo and learn and become a caveman again. Okay. So that's why we're talking on duly noted observation, being aware of your environment, and that's how we're going to battle with the terrorists out there. Being duly noted means you're being aware. Even you're doing your other activities, but you can also make other observations, and you're duly noting. You're using collective knowledge, and you say, wait a minute, something just didn't seem right about that guy. Okay, you can take it to authorities and say, I don't know if I'm correct on this, but Jojo over here, something is out of place, and this is the reason why. You don't just say it's just out of place. Because extinction could be working with you and give you a different perception of things. I noticed that he had several duffel bags, and he was very being protective of it. And then he went to talk to another person, and another person almost tripped over it, and the way he responded is like, be careful of that, that might explode, type of human behavior. So that when you tell the authorities, they're going to say, wait a minute, okay, there might be some merit to this. Other than just saying, well, that guy looks strange. It's like, I also look strange too, but I hope you don't call the law on me. It's like, I look strange. Oh my goodness. So anyways, the moral of the story is, once you become familiar using duly noted and collective knowledge, you'll see what is normal and what isn't normal. What is normal human behavior and what isn't normal behavior. And even for the best of people, they cannot perfectly counterfeit themselves in a way they can't be identified. The laws of energy says truth and false have to be present. Now it comes down to your ability to identify each. And once you start identify each, duly noting, using collective knowledge, and using monogamy means, for example, monogamy. I'm going to say up until, before here, we'll say people hated the Muslims. I'm just saying, what if? Okay, people hated the Muslims, and it's because of this and this and this and this and this. I mean, they have a whole slew of things. Well, that was of the past. Okay, so that's monogamy. Okay, so I have to say this Muslim here may not be the same group that believe in killing people in the masses. So I have to put that monogamy, and I have to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, wait a minute. And my simple observation would say, well, it doesn't appear, I don't see any telltale signs that this guy wants to kill America or he kill Americans, because in America we have Muslims, we have Christians, we have a whole slew of people of religious faith. So when they think it's a religion type thing, no, it is a we the people thing. And everyone within the United States, we want to protect everyone within the United States, even atheist people, because atheist gives contrast. Okay, it doesn't say atheist is correct or incorrect. As we know with this wall here, if this painting of me in my previous life was painted the same color as this wall, you would barely even notice that it was on the wall. Okay, but because it's of different shades, contrast it allows us feedback to take collective knowledge, and our duly noted means you're acknowledging, you're accessing the information, and then you're simulating in here what is logic. And basically the end result is it has to have self-preservation and that we win against extinction. It has nothing to do with you personally or religiously or skin tone or tall or fat or skinny or whatever. It's like we have to do the things in terms of problem solving that gets us 4 billion years in the future. That is what I'm focusing on. See, people, I struggle at people calling other people white people and black people and whatever. I struggle at that. And it's the same way they struggle at me who takes on my concept is I don't see how anyone could see each other than 50 million shades of brown. You know, we were identified by our bones. So if we had a wall of bones of all nationalities and cultures, they would all look the same. You can't say blood because all life has red blood. We are identified by their bones. And that's some of the learning aspects that we were supposed to gain out of identifying dinosaurs. We are identified by our bones. Is so when I look at that race and say, that's a monkey's bone. That's a monkey is its own race of life. And say, when I see human bones, and say, okay, with all these telltale signs here, there's no doubt in my mind it is of the human race. Now you have to go one step further in terms of your knowledge, collected knowledge, and duly noting things, is to even know that was it a male or female. Well, if it had a pelvis and it was a much bigger pelvis, okay, it doesn't seem it couldn't be a male, but the likelihood that it was a female, because that coincides with a woman being able to give birth to a child. Okay, but it comes down to our bones. We are the human race. That's how we are identified, by our very own bones. And how do you know T-Rex is in that museum? Because you recognize his bones. How do you recognize that is a raptor? Is because what has been associated, that name with the bones, you say that's a raptor. That's another different race of life. So there might be some similarities, just like similarities between monkeys and us. But just like you think of the lottery, okay, and you think of how many different combinations would you have in totality, means, okay, well, there's 300 million combinations. And if I spend 300 million, I'm guaranteed to be a winner. Okay, in terms of life is going to put it in all many different combinations. That's like many different combinations of tools. Wrenches, screwdrivers, pulleys. I mean, the toolbox of energy. So that's why I have a hard time conceiving. It's like, okay, and I'll be brutally honest. I'll be like, these freaking idiots can't see that, aren't they not brown race? Aren't they of the human race? And I'm sure they're saying the same thing to me as Everett. They're saying, Everett, don't you know you're a white man? Duh. You know, so it works both ways. And I'm like, you know, if you think evolution and problem solving is easy, there's nothing easy. When you develop in evolution and you put in variables in terms of human behaviors, yeah, it's like, pardon my French, but it's like a giant clusterfuck going on in your head. You're like, and then it's like, it gives you a headache. And you're like, wow. But it's either, I have two choices. Either I become dead or I make effort, step forward. You know, like the footprints in the sand in terms of Jesus. You know, keep stepping forward. You know, and as this mental discombobulation, you know, at some point I'm going to reach to a point I'm going to like, wow, boy, I'm glad we're past that. Whew. You know, just like people back in 1865 when they got their slavery was 13th Amendment. You know, that was my doings. You know, bringing freedom and liberties and opportunities to people. Boy, if you think today is a mental discombobulation, I mean, lived life back in 1865. Wow. And in fact, television and movies, they're not permitted in a way to put all the truth of things into the video, in the movies. Because it would just literally horrify you. I mean, I wish I can remove that time frame of my previous life. But it's like, I have to have it because it reminds me, as a problem solver, is we have to find, you know, there's a yin, there's a yang. You know, I have to understand them both. And then I put them together. Okay. It just, and the keystone is never okay to torture people. Okay. When you say, well, there is an exception. There's a 90-10. Okay. If I knew, you know, not that it would be my first choice, but in our government have used, actually many governments have used, they'll torture these people to extract information. But the thing is, I'm very resourceful. I do not have to use torture to get information from you. All I need you is to stay alive. Your telltale signs, your response, your human response, even if you're not saying a word, you're communicating to me. Okay. So, it's like if you're a terrorist, you know, you better kill yourself. Because if you don't, and I keep you alive, I'm going to know everything for the last 1,000 years of your life in your tree, your family tree. And I'm going to know what your intentions are. I'm going to dig, because the truth and false have to be present. And I'm one of the best detectives you'll probably ever run into, or forensics, is I'm able to extract information. As long as you're, you know, so if you're a prisoner of war, POW, I'm keeping you alive because you have to yield the truth. And that's duly noted. And by duly noting, you also engage into collective knowledge. And by collective knowledge is you don't want to taint that with things of the past. You know, that's why you use the monogamy, means that if, say, for example, I would say I was raped by a woman. Okay, that sounds kind of funny. I mean, you can't rape the woman, of course. And would it say, I'm trying to decide, problem solve in a situation that involves a woman. If I bring in that past that happened to me, I can base my problem solving based on also what I experience of women. Okay, versus basing on the current times of evolution. Because the woman that's now is not the same woman that was 1865 or a man. People evolve. Whether you like it or not, you're going to evolve. Either you become extinct or you evolve. It's one of the two. Forever life, there's forever death. For every action, there's a reaction. So our true enemy is extinction. That's logic. That's reason. That's scientific. It's not the devil. The devil is like in the category of Santa Claus. Lucifer is in the category of the unseen energy. Like I've shown pictures. I took pictures of Lucifer. He was in the shape of a male human figure in fire. And the Native Americans saw this back then, but they didn't quite understand what they were seeing. As they, wait a minute, I'm human. Why is he made out of fire? And that's why we got the thing of fire and brimstone, is that's where you go. That's where the bad people go. That was an early understanding of evolution, how people think and try to put reason to things. So that's why we have to open up, put it on the table. Put it on the table, just like this presidential election is putting everything on the and some of them may be sensitive topics, but you can't resolve things if they end up being under the rug, because we all know with things being under the rug, people have a tendency to forget things and say, and like with JoJo using duly noted, if he says, well, they're gonna punish me if he never told me that he likes putting firecracker up cats' asses, how many cats will suffer to that suffrage before someone went in and say, hey, John Doe over there is mutilating cats and he's putting firecrackers. I mean, he may have already gone through 100 cats. Okay, but if I bring him to the forefront, okay, he comes forward and say, well, I don't know why, but I just feel this is my part of my entertainment. Okay, and I don't just say this is the law. I'm going to give details as to why I reached this decision. I would say, John Doe, I said, doesn't it feel good to lay in your bed? Nice clean sheet? Yes, sir. It feels nice. Doesn't it feel good to have food in your belly? Yes, sir. Okay, that is when life is being taken care of in a suitable standard of life. I said, can I come over to you and stick a dynamite in your ass? No, why would you do that, Everett? Then why would you stick a firecracker up a cat's ass? Okay, so you have to put endearment in there at the same time, try to help them evolve. Because you might find out this person really has some other good skill sets. And if anything, if he evolves, he can also work in my favor, becomes my ally, and say, wait a minute, Everett, I know that guy there. There's no doubt in my mind he's into animal cruelty. I can see the telltale signs. And then he gives me this collective knowledge, duly noted. And then we might pay a little attention over there. Maybe we missed a couple cats. But he's not putting firecrackers up the cat's ass. He's putting dynamite sticks. We just didn't catch him. Since he knows that realm of energy of thinking of things, he helped me to save a few more cats. That's when they say, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Is to understand one another. Not quickly just do this thing. Because what we're experiencing is multiple levels of evolution on one planet. So that will conclude this part. I believe it's part 3. So hopefully we've gotten into it and I've inspired you. I have opened up your collective knowledge using objective and creativity to being duly noted, to practice the proper way of duly noted with collective knowledge, and to be able to explain yourself. That way you take out it being a personal thing. Say, okay, because of this and 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 this, it all points to we are going to die. Okay. And I'm